Post-match chat with Chaps for that Millwall podcast where it finished at the Den. Millwall 2, Preston North End 0. And that is job done. That's all that mattered. The 3 points, it didn't matter how we got them. What was really important was that we got the 3 points against a team that were breathing down our necks and were the form team coming into this game. They'd won 5 out of 6 before this game, whereas contrary for us, we hadn't even scored a goal in 4. But look, we should all be really, really pleased with that. Probably wasn't the best performance, but as I say, who cares? We needed the 3 points and that's all that matters. And ultimately, it was down to a couple of moments of quality that got us over the line. So just before I sort of go into my sort of in-depth piece, as I say, I'm going to do sort of 3 key points to take away from yesterday's game, just to sort of, if people can't be bothered to listen to my voice for 30 minutes, basically. And my key 3 points for yesterday was we played much better at Hull. First point, we played much, much better at Hull. We created more opportunities against Hull. I think we created 22 goal-scoring opportunities up there. And obviously we walked away with absolutely nothing and we felt hard done by. And I think Preston can probably feel a bit hard done by yesterday. I think Ryan Lowe summed it up perfectly. They were the better team. And if I'm honest, I think they were. But ultimately, when it mattered, we had quality in both boxes. And I think we'll get into the goals, but a couple of magic moments from Zian Fleming, I think just showed his quality. A great ball in for the first goal and then a superb finish for the second goal. Don't underestimate that. And then ultimately some really resilient defending from the likes of Sean Hutchinson and Scott Malone, who it got us over the line. So I think that's the first point I want to make, that there wasn't much in the two teams, if I'm being honest. And I think Preston will feel hard done by, but that's exactly how we felt against Hull. And if you'd have given me the opportunity to win one of those games, it would have definitely been the Preston game. So that's the first point. The second one was scoring early was key. So obviously we took the lead quite early on in the game. And I think that really just took a load of pressure off of us. Coincidentally, I'm going to contradict what I just said there. And I say that I think we actually played with quite a lot of nervous energy for a lot of the game until we got the second goal. But what I guess I'm saying is in the result of the game, getting that first goal was really, really important. We know we've struggled to score goals recently. So to get a goal in the magnitude that we did with the two players combining, Fleming and Bradshaw, we need them to be back in the goals for us to get into the top 6. And I think that was absolutely key. And Fleming and Bradshaw were a number of some big performances that I'll get into throughout the course of this video. And then the third point was, it's in our hands still. We've got 4 games to play. We're sitting in 5th and it's still in our hands. For me, I think another 7 points will do it. I'm pretty sure 7 points will do it because it basically mean that teams have got to get at least 10 points from 4 games, which I just can't see happening. I think the ones to watch, given the fixtures, are probably Coventry. And I would never rule out West Brom. They've got a game in hand on others. And I think that they could still make a late charge towards the playoffs. They're not too far behind, especially if they win their game in hand. But I think it's against Burnley or Sheffield United, so it's not an easy one. So we're 5th in the table with 4 games to go. Birmingham's massive, and we need to make sure everyone is down there on the Den Tuesday night. It's an absolute pain in the arse of work, but just get down there. Get yourself down there, and let's make it a fortress once again and get that game won. Because we win that game, we then need to get 4 points from 3 games, in my opinion. So it's massive. And then adding on from that, which is my part of my third and final point, is obviously throughout the course of the season, there's been sort of some negativity towards some of the players. Ollie Burke is the latest one. George Long, Murray Wallace has come in for a bit of criticism. Vogel Samar, quite a few players have come in for criticism. And at times Rowett has. But either the players are not as shit as I say we, obviously everyone's got their own opinion. Either the players aren't as shit as people think they are, or they are, and Rowett is just a saviour. Or, actually, we've got an half-decent team that is not particularly pretty in the eye, but are effective at what they do. And whilst other teams will play better football, dare I say it, other teams probably got a lot better players, but we're effective at what we do. We're good at what we do. We're good at what we're good at. And I think yesterday epitomises that. It was a team that was set up fairly well. We only had, I think, 35% possession. but we still created the same amount of opportunities they did. And they had double passes, but it doesn't matter. We created opportunities and we took them. And I think the players and Rowett deserve a lot of credit for that. There was a lot of resilient defending. And again, we've got more injuries keep coming and we still keep finding a way to win, which was all that mattered yesterday. So they're my key 3 points. And now I'll sort of get into the game. So the starting lineup. The starting lineup was, there was one change, which was enforced, which was George Honeyman, who I believe is out for the rest of the season, which is a shame because whilst I think he doesn't offer the most going forwards, I think he's really key in the way that we defend from the front. And I think he brings a lot to the team with his energy, his work rate, and the way in which he sort of applies himself and the way he can sort of use his sort of experience to win sort of moments in games. So he will be a miss, but the change was Vogelsammer coming in for him. Obviously, there was a lot of calls for SA to start. He didn't, and ultimately, the manager lives and dies by his decisions. And I actually think Vogelsammer was poor yesterday. I'll go on to that in my ratings, but ultimately, we win the game. In the week, I did say I would have liked to have seen a bit of a freshening up somewhere else. And I sort of referenced the fullbacks, and I actually think an enforced change that I'll come on to in a moment after about 11 minutes was key in the outcome of the game. But that was our team. And then for Preston, it's a good team. It is a good team they've got. Potts and Brady down the flanks are really good players. They've contributed a lot of goals and assists, especially in their last sort of 5 or 6 games. Daniel Johnson has always been a good player at this level. I think one season a couple of years ago, he got almost 20 goals. Brown was out for them, so Johnson took the armband. And they've also got Josh Onoma, who I thought was really good actually in the game yesterday. Good player, signed him on a free from Fulham, great bit of business in January. And then, Troy Parrott we know all about, and the very, very, very in form Tom Cannon, who also looked quite lively yesterday. But that was their lineup. So we kick off the game and they create the first chance. It's a ball through and finds Troy Parrott, and then sort of from the penalty edge of the penalty area on the sort of right hand side, fires over the bar. And it wasn't a clear cut chance by any stretch of the imagination, but for me it showed that they can be dangerous and they can get into good positions. And I thought throughout the first half, one thing I noticed was that Cannon and Parrott were willing runners. They were looking to stretch us, and obviously looking to play against Cooper and Hutchinson's weaknesses, which is, trying to stretch them and sort of run at them and do that. And at times they did throughout the first half. But before I get into some of the more of the chances, there was an enforced change on around sort of, it was about 8, 9, 10 minutes, something like that, with Murray Wallace going off injured for Scott Malone. I haven't heard anything about Murray Wallace's injury, and I really hope he's back and available for Tuesday, because I think we're going to need all the bodies that we can. But I actually think Scott Malone was key yesterday in the outcome of that game. And I think a lot of credit needs to be given to him because he's played hardly any football. And to come in and give a performance like that is just brilliant. And I'll talk more about his rating later on. But he comes on. We have our first sort of half chance where sort of the ball's played through. And again, Burke does really, really well after some good build-up play. I think Fleming puts the ball through to him. Burke absolutely rapid down the right-hand side, but he just can't control it, and it ends up petering out. And it's not a chance. It's probably not even a half chance, but it could have been had we done better with the control. But then we get the goal, and the goal comes from some really good build-up play between Malone and Fleming. I think Malone wins a throw-in, and then it gets recycled a few times, and then Fleming whips the ball in, brilliant ball into the box. Bradshaw said it himself in the interview after the game, where a lot of players are kind of distracted by the likes of Coop and Hutch in there, and he sort of goes in and sort of glances it into the far corner. I don't know why I'm sort of showing you what he did, but glances it into the far corner. It's a great header, and it's a good goal. I have to say, I think if that's our goalkeeper, we would be complaining. I've always thought Freddie Woodman's quite. I think interesting. I've heard rumours he's a Millwall fan. So maybe that's why. But I've always thought he's he's not the best shot stopper in the world, Freddie Woodman. He's good at some of the other bits, but I think he should be doing better with that. But look, we'll take it all day long. It's a decent header, and we go 1-0 up. And I always felt that then they now have to come at us, because a draw for them isn't really enough. And obviously they certainly can't lose. So I thought they'd come at us. And to be honest with you, I think for the rest of the first half, they didn't create bundles of chances, but they did create some moments in the game for sure. And I think on 18, Onoma picks the ball up, drives at us, gets the wrong side of Sav. Sav tries to get in, he can't. Onoma continues to drive, no one steps out, has a shot, and Long saves it, but he spills it or parries it, however you want to look at it, straight back into play. And then a superb bit of defending from Hutch. There's a lot of people on Twitter saying this is a great double save from Long. It's not. This is Hutch with a superb block, because that's going in. For me, Long needs to do better with the first shot. He might have been unsighted, which is fair, and you could say the same for the goal he conceded against Hull. But I think if you parry that shot, you have to push it wide, and he doesn't. And for other than a fantastic bit of defending from Hutch, it could have changed the game, and it was 1-1. So don't underestimate that bit of defending now. Then again, a couple of times, I think on 25, they break through. Cannon looks really quite dangerous. You can tell he's really confident. They look like a confident team, Preston. They do play some nice stuff. There's no doubt in it. They're a good side under Ryan Lowe. And I think they've got a good team, as I say. And I think Cannon has an opportunity on 25. They then have a couple of corners, and from one of the corners, it wasn't quite off the line, but Billy Mitchell sort of hacks it clear at the far post, which could have sort of been going to someone that could have tapped it in the net. Then another chance where Ollie Burke is sort of defending, sort of running back towards his own goal. He sort of makes a block, but it rebounds back to their player, has a shot. Long saves comfortably with his feet. But at this point, they're all over us. And I think we look really nervous. We look like a team that knew we had to hold on to that 1-goal lead, and we needed the second goal. We have our own opportunity on 33 where it sort of breaks to Fleming after some good build-up play, but he takes too long to have a shot. And a vital interception from Daniel Johnson means it clears away. We then have a free kick on 41, but Bogey puts too much on it, and the game finishes at half-time 1-0. And it wasn't one of those halves where I was like really confident going into the second half, because I think I didn't see I thought Preston would score, if I'm honest, after that first half, and I felt that we needed a second goal for sure in order to get the win or even get anything from the game. And that was how I kind of felt going into that first half. Going into that second half. The second half kicks off, and I think Preston start as they mean to go on. They create an overload down the right-hand side on 52. The cross finally comes in, and it ends up going into Long's hands. I think that is the moment when... No, that was on 69. I'll come on to that. So again, they look dangerous. On 62, we get into a really good position, but we overcomplicate it and we just don't put it in the box, and we look really nervous. We do look really nervous, to be honest. And then they come forward again, and I think Cooper's booked for an off-the-ball foul on Parrott. Him and Parrott had a little bit of ding-dong all game. I think Parrott went down way too easily a lot of the time. I think there was one chance where he went down looking for 2 penalties, one against Cooper and one against Sav, and they never were. And then eventually he is substituted as part of 4 subs for them on 67. They bring an absolute giant of a centre-half on, I think his name's Bambo Diaby, I believe. And make a couple of other changes. Liam Delap, who we were linked with, comes on for them. So they go for it. They make 4 subs on 67. And a really good opportunity for them on, I think it's 69, where, again, the block from Hutch is as good as a goal. A vital bit of defending, a vital challenge from Hutch on 69 stops them opening their account for the day. We then make 2 subs of our own. Romain Esse and Duncan Watmore come on for Ollie Burke and Vogelsammer. And not long after that, we go 2-0 up. So again, just want to sort of mention Malone's contribution here. So first of all, Malone plays the ball down the line. It was quite a good sort of lofted ball down the line, which we then win the foul from. I think it might have been to, it couldn't have been Vogue, he'd gone off by then. Maybe it was to Watmore. Don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Ball down the line, good ball. That's when we win the free kick. The free kick is then taken by Malone, up to Cooper. They don't win the second phase. No one's even looking for it. And that's where Ryan Lowe will be disappointed. And it comes to Zian on the penalty spot and sort of an acrobatic finish into the bottom corner. And don't underestimate that finish. It's a good finish. And it's not as easy as it looks. But that's what we're all about. Set piece. We haven't scored from a set piece in a long time. Great flick on from Cooper, doing what he does best, and then a superb finish. And again, the ball into the box is quality from Malone. He's played a vital role in both goals, Scott Malone. And then the Malone, his contribution is not over, because near the end of the game, I think their main chance that he had from memory after we'd scored, because I think it did take the wind out of them, and I felt we also relaxed a bit more as well. Danny Mack, they bring on the lad, I think, is it Fernandez from Manchester United? He was part of their changes. Looked quite good when he come on, to be fair. He sort of runs at Danny Mack. Danny Mack tries to shepherd out a play. There's too much of the field left to go before you're doing that, Danny. And he then managed to get round him, puts the ball back across goal. I'm not sure who from their point of view sort of strikes it towards goal, and Malone off the line, brilliant bit of defending. It really, really was superb bit of defending. And then the only other chance I think we had was good hold-up play from Bradshaw. At the end of the day, we're breaking now because they're throwing everyone sort of forward. And then Watmore breaks. Probably should have played the ball across the face of goal earlier, because Esse was free. He doesn't. He waits a bit. His shot gets deflected and into the arms of Freddie Woodman. But after that, I don't really recall any other chances of note. And the game finishes 2-0. And I think it was, as I say, it was so important to get that win and to get that first goal. I think that they will feel aggrieved. I don't think there's any way of looking at it. They play some good stuff. They got some good players. I thought Josh Onama, particularly in the first half, was great. I thought he was probably one of the best players on the pitch. All I will say is that he wasn't, because Jules Saville was playing, and Jules Saville was absolutely phenomenal again, which we'll come on to. A couple of key observations then for me before I get into my sort of player ratings was that okay, a couple that I've got here. I do all this in one take, so that's why you get a few pauses. I think that, so I've written down here that Fleming won a lot of free kicks. I felt it was the only way that at times they could stop him with his strength and his awareness, which was key as well. I also felt that I think Bradshaw's performance will be underestimated by some, because there were so many other really good performances. Bradshaw was playing up against 3 centre-backs who were all a lot bigger, and you know, every single week we pummel balls up to him, and he somehow wins his fair share. I don't think he won a lot in the air yesterday, but his hold-up play was good, and he was being battered for 90 minutes by 3 big lumps, and I thought he did really, really well. So, you know, ever the winning runner, works his absolute socks off and got his goal. So I think Bradshaw is definitely, his performance deserves a lot of praise. Couple of other observations. I think that, by the way, this was poor from Daniel Johnson at the end. He's their captain at the moment, and at the end he went to go straight down the tunnel, and Ryan Lowe had to sort of tell him to go over and clap the fans, which I think is absolutely shocking. And if I ever saw that from one of our players on an away day, I wouldn't be too happy, particularly the captain and a player that's been there for years. Incidentally, I don't think Burke came out at the end to sort of celebrate, although he's been getting pelters from people, and I'm not too sure why. So look, let's get into the player ratings then. So again, just to caveat this, it's just my opinion. If I criticise a player or a performance, doesn't mean I don't like them, doesn't mean I do like them. I'm just calling what I see. I'm not digging anyone out. I'm not praising anyone in particular. And if I've said a player has performed poorly for the last few games, I'm just calling what I see. Of course, I hope the form changes. So George Long, he didn't make that double save. And I think the first save he could have done better with. And other than that, I think everything else he did routine. Some of his kicking was quite poor as well. So I'm going to give him a 6, George Long. Danny Mack, he looks like a player at the moment that has not got a lot of confidence. I think his form is quite poor at the moment. I think Big Little Shaq will be thinking what he needs to do to get into the team, if I'm honest. I thought, especially his first 30 minutes, Danny Mack, I don't think he felt like he couldn't, even pass the ball 5 yards. I think it must be a confidence thing for him. And listen, he's a superb player. He's a superb player, and he's easily good enough, in my opinion, for a top 6 championship side. But at the moment, his form is not good, and I've given Danny Mack a 5. The 2 centre halves, I've given Cooper a 7 and Hutch an 8. I thought they were both really good. But I've given Hutch an 8 because there were 2 absolutely vital blocks that are as good as a goal, in my opinion. So I've given Hutch an 8. I actually think at times Hutch was back to his best today. He's at his best when he anticipates balls being played to the feet of strikers and he steps in. And he hasn't done that a lot this season, but I felt he did today. There was a couple of moments where he did make mistakes. It wasn't the perfect performance, but overall I thought he was really, really good. Scott Malone. I'm going to give Scott Malone an 8.5. I don't think I'll ever give out a 10, and I very rarely give out 9s. So I'm going to give Scott Malone 8.5 because I think you've just got to take into consideration the kind of position that he's coming into. He's hardly played any minutes. He comes on into a massive game, and I don't think he put a foot wrong. And in actual fact, he was involved in both goals, and a superb bit of defending to clear it off the line at the end to save us from a nervy couple of minutes. There's not really much more you can ask. The thing of what I'll say about Malone is he has got that bit of quality. His final ball, and he's a far superior footballer than Murray Wallace, in my opinion. And I think with Murray Wallace, what you normally get is that he's a better defender. But I felt yesterday Malone did everything that was asked of him. And for me, even if Wallace is fit against Birmingham, Malone keeps his place, I have to say. So that's Malone. Moving into the midfield, I thought Billy Mitchell was really, really good. He almost looks like he's not been injured. He was brilliant. His fitness levels and the way he keeps the ball turning, and I think him and Sav contribute to each other really, really well. And I've already talked about that kind of not off the line clearance, but very close to sort of the goal line in the first half. So I thought Billy Mitchell was brilliant. I'm going to give him an 8. And by the way, I've seen a lot of people sort of use Billy Mitchell's performances as a kind of, he's 10 times better than Leonard. I mean, why can't we just say they're both really good players? Whether you think Mitchell's better than Leonard or Leonard's better than Mitchell, it doesn't matter. The point is, we're lucky that we've had one come back to fitness when one's gone out. And I think it's great that we've got both of them in our squad. We don't need to use this kind of Mitchell's better than Leonard or whatever. They're both ours. They're both good players. They've both got different qualities. Who would I put in the first team at the minute? It would be Mitchell, but it doesn't mean Leonard's a bad player. George Saville. I mean, the guy in the last 5 or 6 games has been phenomenal. Seriously, he was the best player on the pitch yesterday by a mile. He oozes class. He is our captain without being a captain. He's our leader. You can tell how much it means to him. He is just phenomenal. Seriously, I cannot tell you how good he has been in the last 5 or 6 games. he's just able to slow the game down when he needs to. My criticism of him at times earlier on in the season, he was too slow. He doesn't do that anymore. He picks his moments when to pass, when to not. The amount of interceptions. Yesterday there was a moment on 78 where cross is coming in, Saville intercepts it. He's in the first one to head it away. He's just everywhere. The guy is absolutely fantastic. And when you consider we sold him for 8 million or whatever we sold him for, a lot of money, and then got him back for next to nothing, I think it's a superb bit of business. And he's really starting to step up and be, a real leader on that pitch. So my man of the match, once again, was George Saville. Then Zian Fleming, I've given an 8 because ultimately, I think he won a lot of free kicks, which don't underestimate because that stops him playing. But it also means that he, that's how they're stopping him, and that's the only way they can stop him. And I thought he was good yesterday. And ultimately, 2 moments of magic from him that gets the 3 points, and you need your best players to step up. And so for that reason, I'll give him an 8.5. I'll give Fleming an 8.5. So Fleming and Malone on 8.5, and Saville on 9. I'll give Bradders an 8 for all the reasons I talked about. His effort, his running, he got his goal. He got absolutely battered against 3 centre-halves. And by the way, they're just talking about centre-halves, even Preston squad depth. They had 3 centre-halves that started. They've got Diaby, who I'm pretty sure at the start of the season, Preston was saying is the best centre-back in the league. He's an absolute unit, by the way. And they also had Patrick Bauer on the bench. So they've got 5 centre-backs in their squad. At the moment, we've got 2. So again, it just shows you what we're up against here. Teams with bigger squads and more to choose from. But anyway, side note. Vogelsammer, I've given a 5. I don't hate Vogelsammer as much as a lot of people do, but I thought yesterday he was poor. Don't think he contributed enough to the game. At times he was out of position from a defensive point of view, and he was too slow on the offensive side sometimes. So give Vogie a 5. Burke, I've given a 6, 6.5. He wasn't as bad as some people say he was. I really don't. And I feel like there's this sort of scapegoating amongst him. For me, he was our best player against Hull by a mile. And yesterday, anywhere between a 6 and a 7 for me. I thought there was some good things he did, and there were some not good things he did. I felt he grafted. I don't think you could say he didn't, to be honest. I felt he grafted. And at the moment, I would much rather have him over Vogie in the team, especially if Honeyman's not available. And then for me, it's just the left that's up for grabs. In terms of the subs, Bennett wasn't on long enough to comment, but what I will say, it's great to see him back and he gives us another option. When he's fit, for me, he is the person that plays on the left. Bennett and Burke, Fleming and Bradshaw, for me, is a really good front four. Watmore and Essay, I thought both contributed in their own way when they came on. I thought Watmore was the brighter of the two. Essay looked okay. There were some moments of real brilliance, and then some moments of where he needs to just learn the game a bit more. A couple of times, he always seems to do the same thing, which is beat a player, cutting on his left, and sort of float over to the back post. But I thought he was okay defensively, but I still am not sure if he's ready to start these games when you've got when you're playing in such high pressure situations at home. I'm still not sure it's the right games to be starting him. Should he be involved and should he be getting more than 10 minutes? Absolutely, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily ready to start the games. For me, it should be Watmore or Bennett that start on the left-hand side, and I still think Burke's deserving of his starting place on the right-hand side. So look, there we are, 29 minutes in. That's my take on yesterday. I think ultimately, I said this in the week, my old man always tells me about a time where him and my mum had just, I think they just started dating, and he said, we're going to Chesterfield today. And it was in 1983, and what a lovely romantic weekend that must have been. And we had to win to stay up. Otherwise, if we didn't, we'd have been relegated to the 4th division, and we won 1-0 and we stayed up. But what I'm saying is that was before my era. But the point is, historically, we've been a team that has sort of bounced between the 1st and 2nd division. We're currently 5th in the Championship, And I don't really care how we get there. If we finish in the playoffs, Rowett has done an absolutely superb job, and so has this bunch of players. For the size of the squad, the quality of the squad, it just shows you all you need to know about the resilience, character, and the tactics and the way we're set up. Yes, it's not pretty. Yes, there are much better teams that are lower than us. But ultimately, we're effective and we're good at what we're good at. So 7 more points are needed for me. Let's get that kicked off with a 3 points against Birmingham. They've got nothing to play for, but they've got flair players that will be coming and you know, with no pressure. So, you know, likes of Kedra, Hannibal, they're good players, and they'll be looking to, they certainly won't be looking to do us any favours. So I encourage you all, get down there on Tuesday night and let's get 3 of those points that we need so that we go into the last 3 games needing just 1 of each to get us there. Thank you very much for listening as always. Please do like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. I really hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope to see a few of you down there on Tuesday. Really appreciate you listening as always. Thanks very much. Bye for now.